Hey, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the program presented by Novig. My guest this week, Tom Crean, the Final Four coach at Marquette, the NCAA tournament coach at Indiana, and now an analyst with ESPN, Peacock, Westwood One. Let's get to my conversation with Tom Crean. This episode of the program is presented by Novig, the peer-to-peer sports prediction market with no house, no hidden fees, and the best odds in the game. Whether you're a casual fan or a sharp trader, Novig lets you play smarter, win bigger, and make sports picks in a whole new way. And it's available in over 35 states. Learn more at novig.us/Woj and use code the program for a match up to $100 on your first purchase. Welcome into Tom Crean, who led Marquette to a Final Four, led Indiana to Big Ten championships, to the Sweet 16, and coached the number one overall pick at Georgia, Anthony Edwards. Tom, how are you?
I'm great, Adrian. It's great to be with you. It's great to have you back on the podcast, too, where so many people can learn like they have done for years, what makes you successful and what makes your relationships and friendships so successful as well with the people you know.
Well,
so I hope I don't bring the podcast down.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you here. We still talk a lot, obviously, and I'm doing a lot more learning than anything else right now over this past year. You've been a great sounding board for me as I'm trying to figure things out. But Tom, in your role now at ESPN, Peacock, Westwood One, spending a lot of time in arenas, in studios, but talking with your peers, some of your former peers in college basketball. How's the conversation changed when you talk to coaches now about what worries them, what weighs more heavily on their mind than maybe just a few years ago when you were still active as a coach?
I think it's all the different. There's always been distractions. There's always been issues that you have to deal with. And one thing I learned a while back, there's a difference between a problem and a dilemma. A problem you can solve. A dilemma you have to manage. And I think right now there's way, way more dilemmas than there are problems because you just have to manage it. You're not going to solve things. And I think people get really, I think they get disgruntled with how many different things they have to do during the season to appease others. And that's why your team of people has just got to be so, so strong. I mean, the days of thinking that fundraising is just an arm of the athletic department or university or just the head coach's job. No, it's not the way it is. And even though you may not be on a staff, every member of the staff has got a responsibility to be a fundraiser and not just a fundraiser, right? Because part of that fundraising does raise funds, but it helps navigate issues for the head coach. And I think what I see with some coaches is they get frustrated with their staffs because they don't necessarily understand the things that the head coach is going through, right? And they want to focus on their areas, and you just can't anymore. And I think some of it is that head coaches know they have to do a better job of training their staff in different areas, or maybe there's even times where they look at it, I wish he knew this, or I wish they would have known that. And I just think there's so many hats that people have to wear. But at the end of the day, for me, Adrian, it always goes back to, and this is probably because I'm not coaching right now and I am in this different world like this. You're still getting to do something that's incredible. You're still getting to coach basketball. You're still getting to work and develop players. And I always go back to what I miss the most. I miss the problem solving for the players. Maybe I don't miss the dilemma managing as much at times, and I'd have to go through that again. But I miss helping somebody figure out where they've got to get better, what they have to do to be better in life, in school, in relationships with others, with their teammates. How they get great at different things. I miss that part. I miss the development. I miss the competition. And I think sometimes for me, I just want to remind people why they got into it. And no matter how hard it gets, there's still a reason that you're doing it. And you still got to find joy in it. You've still got to find ways to make sure that you're excited and creating energy for other people, and surround yourself with people that can help you do that. But it's hard for me to go through a woe is me mindset with others. And I try to do everything I can do to help remind those other people and help them, keep them focused on, when I can, keep them focused on what the tasks really are when it comes to how you improve players and win games.
Chime is changing the way people bank. It's a fee-free, smarter approach built for real people, not the traditional banks that rely on overdraft charges and monthly fees. What makes Chime different is the control it gives you. With MyPay, you can access up to $500 of your paycheck anytime and even get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. And with Chime, you won't deal with overdraft fees, minimum balance requirements, or monthly fees. Your everyday spending actually turns into rewards and real financial progress. You also get reliable overdraft coverage, tools to help build credit history, savings that earn up to 3.5% APY, and customer service rated 5 stars by USA Today. And now there's the new Chime Card. Credit building with your own money, cash back at everyday purchases, no annual fees, no interest. With qualifying direct deposits, you earn 1.5% cash back. We all know someone who would benefit from something like this. I would recommend checking it out, and switching to Chime only takes a few minutes. Chime is not just smarter banking, it is the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today. Again, it takes just a few minutes to sign up. Just head to chime.com/Woj. That's chime.com/WOJ.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services, a secured Chime Visa credit card, and MyPay line of credit provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. MyPay eligibility requirements apply, and credit limit ranges $20 to $500. Optional services and products may have fees or charges. See chime.com/fees info. Advertised annual percentage yield with Chime Plus status only. Otherwise, 1.00% APY applies. No min balance required. Chime card on-time payment history may have a positive impact on your credit score. Results may vary. See chime.com for details and applicable terms.
A lot of us grew up thinking therapy was hard to get into or something you only turn to when things are really falling apart. The truth is, therapy is just a tool. And when people actually get access to it, it makes a real difference. The hardest part is often finding the right therapist, getting appointments, and navigating insurance. That's where Rula comes in. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance plans, and the average session copay is around $15. Rula connects you with licensed, vetted therapists based on your needs, so you're not guessing or stuck on wait lists for weeks. You answer a few questions, pick a time that works, and you could be talking to someone as soon as the next day. And Rula supports you from start to finish. Booking, scheduling, even checking in to make sure you're making real progress. It's real care from a real healthcare company, not just another directory. Thousands of people have already used Rula to finally get the care they needed. Don't put it off. Go to rula.com/Woj and get started today. That's RULA.com/Woj, WOJ. Go to rula.com/Woj. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. You mentioned something about Tom, and it's a great point about, the roles of staff members, head coach, assistant coaches, and now in many instances, GMs. The responsibilities have changed. And because roster building has changed, has it kind of shaped your mind about how different maybe the skill sets or how different the evolution of what your staff should look like is in this portal NIL era? Is it different than even when you were at Georgia, you were at IU, and how you would put a staff together and what you would value in a staff now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it would start with where a lot of the players are at. And one thing that even I noticed at the end, because my last year at Georgia was the first year of the NIL and it was the first year of the portal. And we'd already been through a year of COVID. And I basically had 2 players on my last team that I'd ever recruited in person. Everything else had been through Zoom or through video. And I think what that shows in those type of realms, what you had to do in Zoom recruiting and things like that, really, really had to sharpen your focus on how you evaluate it. And it was so, it was still recruiting, but it's not. And I look at it like this. There's a lot of people that could call themselves a recruiter. All right. There's a lot of people that can put the shirt on and get on the phone and do the texting and talk to different people, and they're recruiting. But if you can't evaluate, all right, recruiters doesn't necessarily mean you can come in and you can coach and make a guy better because you know exactly what he's got to have to improve. And you're willing to do it because so many coaches are not willing to confront with solutions. There's still a bunch that will confront. There's still a bunch that will demand. There's still a bunch that will get upset and they'll push and they'll coach you and they'll teach fundamentals. But do they have solutions? And I think when you're an evaluator, it gives you an opportunity to have a leg up or a real understanding of what you got to do to develop a player. And a recruiter doesn't necessarily understand that. They know how to tell you what you need to hear. Why I shouldn't say you need to hear. They know how to tell you what you want to hear to get you. And I'll tell you another area where I catch it probably even more on the player side. And then people that I've met work in some of the camps I've met is just the absolute lying that goes on to kids about their positions, where they're going to play, the relationships they're going to have. You're going to be a 4, you're going to be a 3, you're going to be a 1. And like those things aren't happening. It used to be when it first started out, the make-believe stuff was about the actual money you were going to get. Well, now the money is a little bit more clear cut, but it's the roles and it's the relationships and it's the improvement. And 95% of the programs are talking about how they're going to develop you to be a pro. But well over half of that have never had a pro, right? Like it's really hard to do this. It's hard to get them to understand what it's going to take to be successful. And I think it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your experience. You've got to have people that can look at a player, have an understanding of where they are. As a coach, meet them where they are, but at the same time, not let them stay where they are, right? You have to have a willingness to push, but you have to have a knowledge. And frankly, Adrian, I think there's so many coaches that are coming up the ladder right now. They don't understand what hard work really is. They might understand quantity of time, but quantity of time is not surfing the internet for 4 hours a day. Okay. That's not quality. That's quantity, right? Quality of time is what are you doing to make your players better? What are you studying? What are you learning? What are you bringing to them? What are your meetings like with them? What are your meetings like with the other staff? Okay. Do you have an ability to impact those around you in your role? And even when it's not your role, to help support their role. And I think in this day and age, you've got to, it's not about the generic sweatshirt that says coach with a whistle around their neck. It's people that can understand how to deal with a player, how to get inside and help solve a problem. Because here's what's changed so much. There is a lack of willingness to change in so many players as they've gone through the process of being with different teams. And you really get accustomed to doing it the way you want to do it, whether it's your jump shot, whether it's your work ethic, whether it's your defense, whether it's your attitude as a teammate, whether it's your left hand around the basket. When you've had any modicum of success, it's so incumbent upon not only the player and really the people around them, but especially the player and the coaches to let them know that will not be good enough to get where you want to go. Not only for us to win together, but for where you want to go as a player. And getting a team of coaches and personnel staff, they don't have to be the same, okay? But they do have to be like-minded. And like-minded is really, really hard because the number one thing that someone has to be able to provide to a head coach is understanding what kind of person and player and style of player fits that coach. And we could talk for hours about this. That is not happening in as many places as people on the outside think, and you can see it. I mean, I watch 7 to 8 hours of film literally a day when I'm not traveling or, where I'm not at a game or in studio, and you just learn so much. And you learn so much through the summertime, and you realize, like, this doesn't fit. And then it becomes a real process. And that's what I would say. I would have different ways that I would put the staff together, but that like-mindedness and having a team of people that understand you have to friend raise, you have to really work to understand problems, but also understand how we're going to work inside these dilemmas, how you're going to make players better, how you're going to interact with the rest of the staff, how you're going to work to understand that the role that you want and the title that you want, okay, you're going to be accountable for that. All right. It's not just, I want to be the offensive coordinator, the recruiting coordinator. I just want to coach the big guys. Okay, that's cool. But there's a lot of other hats that have to be worn on this staff, and you are accountable to the head coach. And I think going through it and finding those people that are willing to learn if they don't know, but willing to learn and have an open-mindedness to that is crucial to any staff that you build.
Just like a coach looks for every edge on game day, Novig gives fans the edge when they make their sports predictions. With no house and no hidden fees, Novig delivers the best odds every time. It's the smarter way to back your instincts. Learn more about Novig, America's #1 sports prediction market, at novig.us/Woj and use code the program for a match up to $100 on your first purchase. Tom, who in your your travels, your purview right now, who's handling this era really well? Who are the couple coaches, programs that have found a way to thrive in the portal NIL era?
It's hard. I was just at Michigan State doing the Michigan State Toledo game, and Coach Izzo asked if I could come back after the game. It was an early game. It was a 6:30 game. He said, come back and watch film with him. So I ended up doing that after his press conference, and we were together probably like 12:30, 12:45, and just sitting in his office, just the two of us. Sometimes the staff members come in and out with some things for him, but it was really, he's a lot more integrated into this than people would give him credit for, and really what he gives himself credit for. And I think he's navigating all the different things that you have to handle. But I would also tell people, and I retweeted it, but go and look at his Wednesday night radio show where he brings his team in, and he plays the accordion every year. He's been doing it since I coached with him back at 20 some odd years ago, but his team is all a part of it. He has mastered how to make sure that the culture of the program, because a lot of people overuse that word and that term, Adrian, as you know, but he has learned, and he has, culture is at the forefront, whether it's what he's done with his former players. Like, he's got an unparalleled consistency inside of that program. I think Mike Krzyzewski had that before he retired, and certainly John Shire is doing an excellent job with that. But they've been recruiting to massive success at Duke. Tom had to build that success, and he's been able to sustain it over a period of time, and he's been the constant of that. So I would say the way those players interact with each other, and it doesn't mean he doesn't have problems, and it doesn't mean he doesn't have to manage the limits, and it doesn't mean they don't have to get better, right? He's got all that. I mean, it's not like it's any, like it's all sitting there good, but he understands it. And I think he's got a staff of people that understand it. That's one example.
And I think, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think in this era, there's an advantage to the places, because you'll find the right guys who that resonates with, and the right families who that resonates with. Where I think in this portal era, where you might play at 3 different schools, you might play at 4 different schools, you don't have a place to go back to. You don't have a place to bring your kids back to, or your family. And that may not mean a lot when you're 21, 22, 23, but it probably will someday. And I think still at, if it's a Michigan State, it's, a Duke, and, places where there's staying power, where there's a program in place. That doesn't mean guys are in and out, but when they see those guys coming back, and we try to do that here at Bonaventure, like,
Sure.
I want our players to see, we're bringing back, we had Sam Stith is 88 years old, and he and his brother Tom broke the color barrier at St. Bonaventure in the 50s and opened the doors for a lot of players in the Northeast to have opportunities to play at schools that previously had not had Black players. And to have him back and talking to our team and what it meant to him at almost 90 years old to come back and still watches all our games. To me, you want the players to look around the film room and they're in with him
Sure.
and say, hey, I'd like to come back with some of these guys someday. And I think what Tom is able to do at Michigan State and certainly, others, it doesn't have to be, high major at the highest level. I think that has more value than people might think right now, because where it becomes so transactional, it is hard to have a culture and identity. And I think that's what everybody's fighting.
No question. It's like this. Okay, the word transactional gets used so much in college sports. Another word for transactional when it comes to what we're talking about is short-sighted. Okay, and it doesn't mean that people are wrong. I'm not trying to say that at all. The agent's job is to get the player, to get them as much money as they can. But what can't be lost is getting them the best fit for them so that it gives them an opportunity. And you and I both know, okay, whether it's the college side, whether it's the representative side, whether it's the way family members look at it, we're not always looking at what is the best fit. All right. And the short-sightedness of it becomes the amount of money. And I'm not knocking money, but when you go to a place that can not only give you an opportunity to grow and develop and make money from the game in a significant way after you leave, but also have a place that they can call home. You bring up the point about where do they bring their people back to, their families. I always look at this. Who's taking care of the mental health for the family or for the player when they leave? Who's responsible? Who's going to grab that responsibility? And that's where administrations better put the cart before the horse and say, right now, you know what? We better make sure that we've got this down and that we have a real program for, even if this young person was here for 9 months, that they know they can come back here over the next 4 years if something goes wrong, because society is telling you that's the way it's going, right? And then people want to feel connected. They want to, I don't love that term community, but they do want that, right? And you take it for granted when you have it, and then you don't know what to do without it when you don't have it. When you're used to it, that's the thing that used to drive me so nuts about our young players when they would go into the NBA. And I know Tom and I talked about this numerous times, and it's not just Tom Izzo or Tom Crean. There's numerous people that deal with this where you really have a close-knit program where the head coaches are hands-on, where the assistants are involved, where the families are involved, and all of a sudden you change and you go through the agent process and the draft process. Now you're in a team, and they have no idea what it means to be in the business of pro basketball. And there's very, very, very few teams. There's some great program developers. There's some outstanding NBA programs. But we're not talking about 100% rate of everybody's going to care about the player in that transition as they grow into adulthood. All right. And as they grow into with their families and things of that nature. And they get used to that. And I just think that we can't lose the bridges that college basketball, that the college environment provides for people as they go into the next step of life, whether it's the NBA, NFL, and football side, Major League Baseball, or into life. Because really right now, this is, it's like a fantasy world, but at the end of the day, you don't want it to turn into science fiction. And that's what a lot of times what's going to happen when they leave and they don't know where they're going to turn on it. And, but that's the thing. And with coaches, you've got to be able to deal with the short-sighted. You've got to be able to deal with the transaction. But the moment that your transactional abilities to evaluate, recruit, work inside of your program overcome your transformational abilities, okay, or responsibilities, I should say, to build real relationships, to really dive into people, to personalize the message with them, to really dive in and get better with them, to get through conflicts with them, to be demanding with solutions. Those are the things that get missed. And I've said this for a while. Every day is like this. Every day as a coach in college basketball right now, that you can keep your team together and rooting for each other, that you can keep them getting better. But very importantly as well, every day that you like your team, okay, as a coach and as a coaching staff, you're a day ahead of a bunch of people because they fall off the wayside quickly when we get into the world the way it is now. Teams always gave in at some point that had distractions and issues, and it just happens. It's the course of a season. But now more than ever, those distractions really don't go away, and they really don't take a rest. Okay, it's not like they hibernate in the winter. I mean, they're right there. So you have to be able to deal with that stuff head on. And again, that's why I say it's not about experience and age. It's not about having a group of graybeards or a group of young bucks. It's about having people that understand people and that want to help people be better, even when it's not easy to do that. And you've got to fight some outside forces to get there.
Bad news, Tom, is we are out of time for this episode. But the good news, we're going to have you back for a part 2 after Christmas, before New Year's. So we've still got more ground to cover. Thanks, Tom, and we'll be back here next week, continuing this conversation.
All right, thanks, Woj.